I saw him kiss her. Not in secret. Not in shame. Just openly, like I never existed. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I just walked away, packed my life into a suitcase and disappeared. A week later he texted, "Can you stop making a scene?" That's when I knew, the only scene I'd ever made was staying. I didn't scream. Didn't throw the wine glass in my hand or march up to them and demand an explanation. I didn't even gasp. Instead I just stood there. So, watching from across the rooftop as Daniel kissed Sierra. Slow, unhurried, like he had nothing to hide. Like she belonged there in his arms. His hand was on her waist, familiar. Hers in his hair, practiced. It was the kind of kiss people fall into after months of pretending not to need each other. The kind that leaves no space for witnesses. But I was one. Uninvited. Unexpected. Unmissable. I didn't stay long enough for them to see me. I turned before the nausea could set in. Took the elevator. Passed a woman complimenting another woman's heels. Nodded when someone said, "See you upstairs." I left the party with a champagne glass still in my hand. At home I moved with terrifying clarity. No crying. No collapsing to the floor like in the movies. I pulled out a suitcase. Rolled my clothes with the precision of someone packing for war. Grabbed my charger, passport, toothbrush. My favorite mug. Not everything, just enough to walk away. I didn't leave a note. Didn't slam the door. Just locked it behind me and disappeared. A week passed. I found a short-term sublet with peeling paint and terrible water pressure. It was perfect. No history. No shadows in the walls. I made tea with the mug I took. Bought a new blanket. Changed my number. Slept alone, truly alone, for the first time in 3 years. And just when the quiet started feeling survivable, he texted. "Daniel, what the hell is wrong with you again? I'm exhausted and where are you? Can you stop this play?" That was it. Stop this play. I stared at the message for a long time. And somewhere in that moment my memory betrayed me. Flashback. It was snowing the day he first said, "I love you." We were walking home from a New Year's party, him drunk on champagne and warmth, me barely feeling the cold with his coat around my shoulders. He stopped under a street lamp, grabbed my hand and said it like a secret. "I think I love you." I laughed. Think. Fine. I do. I love you, Celeste. And I did something stupid. I believed him. Back then he made me breakfast on Sundays. Held my hand under the table at crowded dinners. Ran bubble baths when I had bad days and read aloud to me while I soaked. He learned my coffee order before my middle name. Used to tell people, "She's the smartest person I know." And I know me. We were happy. Until we weren't. Until he started coming home later. Until he forgot the way I liked my tea. Until his touch became rare, then rehearsed. Until everything felt like obligation instead of devotion. And then he found Sierra. Bright, young, full of ambition and admiration. A new chapter. One that didn't include me. Back to present. I looked at the screen, heart thudding like it still believed he could make this better. Then I pressed block. Deleted the number. Deleted the thread. Deleted the man. In the silence that followed I made a new rule. No more waiting for people who treat your absence as drama. No more hoping for apologies from mouths that lie sweetly. No more chapters where I play background music in someone else's love story. This time I'd start over. Not bitter. Not broken. Just free. I could spot the red flag from across the office floor. Feet propped up on the desk. Headphones in. A phone screen glowing with the unmistakable chaos of Honor of Kings. Loud enough for everyone to hear the battle effects. It had to be him. I approached slowly, watching as Jace Monroe casually annihilated his digital enemies while ignoring the very real ones stalking toward him. Me. "You planning to save the company with that sword?" I asked dryly, arms crossed. He didn't even flinch. Just looked up and grinned like he'd been expecting me. "Oh hey boss lady. Want to join? We're on the last round." "I want a lot of things," I said, tapping a folder against my arm. "For starters, the marketing sales report that was due 2 days ago." He tilted his head. I don't know how. There was no shame. No panic. Just a flat, unapologetic shrug. I blinked slowly. "You majored in marketing." "Technically, yeah," he said. "But I also majored in being awesome and you don't see me using that either." I stared at him, stunned by the sheer audacity. Lana, my junior teammate, scrambled over. "Supervisor Han, I can help." I've been working on it. I'll finish it today. I cut her off with a hand. No. He can do it. Jace stretched, yawning. I seriously don't get the big deal. It's not like we're pitching to the UN. My fingers tightened around the folder. I forced a breath through my nose and leaned in, voice low. You're not here to be entertained, Monroe. You're here to learn. If you don't want to, that's your choice. But don't drag anyone else down with you. His eyes darkened, the smile slipping for the first time. And then, loudly, he shoved back his chair, standing to his full height. Which, unfortunately for me, was towering. I didn't flinch. Just stared him down like I'd stared down executives twice his age. He stepped forward. You just called me useless in front of everyone. Did I lie? I asked coolly. A beat of tense silence. Then the manager, Mr. Sienna, emerged from his office, alarmed by the volume. Jace, Celeste, let's all calm down. Celeste, let's not be too hard on the new intern. I didn't even look at him. Don't worry, I said, voice sharp as a paper cut. I'm calm. I turned to Jace. You want an apology? Earn it. Prove you're not useless. And with that I walked out. The moment the office door closed behind me, I exhaled. My heart thundered against my ribs. I hated that I let him get under my skin. Outside, the sky was gray with the weight of coming rain. I walked with no destination in mind, just needing to move. I ended up near a small park, sat on a bench beside an empty flower bed and stared into nothing. My phone buzzed. Mom, I need money again. Your brother wants a new bike. Of course he does. I laughed under my breath, dry, bitter. The kind of laugh that slips into a sigh and settles in your bones. There I was. 28. Single. Ripped out of a 5-year relationship. With a job that paid well but offered zero peace. And now emotionally held hostage by my mother's guilt-tripping texts. The weight in my chest bloomed and burned. Before I realized it, I was hunched forward, clutching my stomach as the first sob tore out of me. Ugly, raw, helpless. Tears dripped onto my lap, silent but fast. I hadn't cried like this in years. And then, whoa, you're actually crying. I froze. Of course. Of course. I looked up and slammed straight into someone's chest. A solid, warm wall of black fabric and cologne. Jesus Christ, I gritted, pulling back to see Jace Monroe staring down at me, one brow raised. What the hell are you doing here? Looking for you, he said, rubbing his jaw like he had just been hit. Now I'm regretting it. Damn, you really are crying. That's unsettling. I sniffed, wiping my face on the sleeve of my blazer. Leave me alone. He crouched beside the bench instead. Not used to seeing women cry unless they're blaming me for something I didn't do. Is that supposed to be comforting? No, he said with a grin. But I figured sarcasm was your love language. I shot him a look. I swear to God, Monroe. Okay. He raised his hands in surrender. I came to apologize. I blinked. Excuse me. He shifted, a little awkward now. I was kind of a dick earlier. Lana, nearly cried after you left. And I might have scared the poor intern sitting next to me half to death. You think? I snapped. I said I came to apologize, not to confess to murder, he muttered, then added quickly, but also, you okay? Something in his voice changed with that last part. Less arrogant. More hesitant. I looked away. Do I look okay? He squinted at me. You look like you're having a very dramatic breakdown in public. 10 out of 10. I let out a laugh before I could stop it. He seemed pleased by that. You want coffee? He asked suddenly. I know a place nearby. No. Great, he said, completely ignoring me. I'll take that as a yes. 10 minutes later, we were seated in a half-empty parking garage, sitting in his obnoxiously yellow Porsche. He handed me a hot latte with a scribbled doodle on the cup. Said, "Crybaby boss lady." I didn't know whether to throw it at him or laugh. You smell like cigarettes, I said instead. He opened the door, flicked the half-smoked stick onto the concrete and crushed it under his boot. Better. I blinked. You actually listened? He shrugged. I'm not as bad as you think. I think you're worse. He smirked. Touché. We drank in silence for a while. After a few sips, he looked at me from the corner of his eye. You know, I could hook you up. I snorted. With what? Illegal fireworks. With a rebound, he said, grinning. Tall. Rich. Terrible attitude. But great in bed. I rolled my eyes. Oh please. You wish. Never said it was me. You are the worst. Maybe, he said. But I make a damn good latte run. I didn't know it then, but that moment, awkward and strange with mascara still smudged under my eyes and heart still in pieces, that was the moment Jace Monroe stopped being just a cocky intern. He'd barged in like a punk with no rules. And for reasons I didn't understand yet, I didn't want him to leave. The next morning at work, I walked in with my head held high, makeup sharp and dignity duct-taped back together. No one mentioned yesterday. Which was polite. Smart. Safe. Except for one idiot. Well, came Jace's voice from beside the coffee machine. The crybaby queen returns. I didn't even glance at him. Still alive? Damn. Barely. Your death glare yesterday melted 3 interns in my last brain cell. Lana snorted from her desk. I hated that I smirked a little. Just a little. By mid-morning, the marketing report landed on my desk, stapled messily, dotted with typos, and formatted like it was thrown together by a sleep-deprived raccoon. It was Jace's. I read through it with growing horror. Charts mismatched. Headings unaligned. Sentences like, "We can make sales go B" are written in bold. I marched to his desk and slammed it down. He looked up from his phone. So, not award-worthy? You labeled the Q2 summary as hot garbage, and included a meme. It was a relevant meme. I blinked. He blinked. I exhaled. Drinks. Tonight. Team bar. You're paying. His eyes widened. Wait, are you rewarding me? No. I'm self-medicating with alcohol before I get fired by association. Hot. Shut up. By 7:30 p.m., our small team was nestled into a booth at a lounge bar just off Huaihai Road. It was a sleek little place. Ambient lighting, jazz covers, overpriced cocktails. The team loosened up fast. Lana got giggly on mojitos. The finance guy started a dice game. Someone ordered 20 wings no one would eat. Jace sat next to me sipping something that looked suspiciously weak. You're nursing that drink like it cost more than your tuition, I muttered. I'm pacing myself. In case I need to carry you home later. You'll be lucky if you don't get shoved into traffic. He grinned, leaning back with that infuriating ease. You know, you're kind of fun when you're buzzed. I'm not buzzed. You're using sarcasm as a coping mechanism for underlying vulnerability. That's basically drunk flirting. I opened my mouth to reply. And stopped. The lights shifted. A soft voice came through the speakers. This next song is dedicated to Sierra from Daniel. Love Confession. I froze. Jace noticed immediately. What? Across the room under the dim spotlight stood Daniel Reyes, navy coat, tailored slacks, and the same expression he wore when he faked sincerity. Next to him, Sierra smiled sweetly, nestled into his side like a damn lapdog. My drink hit the table a little too hard. Isn't that, Jace began, then followed my line of sight. Wait, that's your ex. Keep your voice down. That's the guy. He looks like a humidifier salesman. I inhaled deeply. He's in venture capital. Same thing. My fingers curled around my glass. The song was the kicker. The same song Daniel once played on my birthday at a rooftop dinner. The same lyrics he claimed reminded him of my smile. Now recycled for the next girl. And she was glowing. Sierra laughed at something he said. He tucked her hair behind her ear. He never did that with me in public. I stood up. Jace grabbed my wrist. Celeste. Don't. But it was too late. Daniel had seen me. His eyes widened, first with recognition then with something sour. Regret? Guilt? Possession? He muttered something to Sierra and started walking over. Here comes trouble, Jace muttered. I didn't move. I wouldn't give Daniel the satisfaction of seeing me shaken. He stopped 2 feet away looking me up and down. You look good, he said casually. Didn't recognize you without the tears. I blinked slowly. Didn't recognize you with the recycled playlist. That caught him. He frowned. You always were dramatic. And you always were unoriginal. His jaw clenched. You really want to make a scene here? Who's making a scene? I smiled brightly. You dedicated our song to your replacement. That's performance art. I didn't know you'd be here. Didn't you? I said. You always had a thing for perfect timing. Jace stood then, positioning himself beside me like a damn wolf off leash. Daniel's eyes narrowed. This your rebound? None of your business. You think I don't see what this is? He snapped. You throw 5 years away, and now you're flaunting yourself with some punk intern who probably can't spell strategy? Jace raised an eyebrow. Big talk for a guy who can't spell loyalty. Daniel ignored him. Celeste, have you no shame? I froze. The words echoed. Loud. Invasive. It hit like a slap. And in that moment, before I could respond, Jace stepped between us. Back off, he said low and tight. Daniel scoffed. You're kidding. This is who you ran to? A spoiled brat playing adult. I said back off, Jace repeated sharper now. One more word and I'll make sure that pretty face of yours isn't worth a second look. Sierra gasped. Daniel lunged. Fists flew. Chairs scraped. Glass shattered. The bar erupted into shouts as security rushed forward. It happened so fast. A punch. A shove. Someone knocked over a tray of drinks. Jace took a hit to the chin and swung back harder. It wasn't just a scuffle, it was personal. And I just stood there, heart thudding, strangely calm. The chaos didn't scare me. What scared me was how unsurprised I felt. Because deep down, I always knew Daniel would unravel the moment he lost control of the narrative. Security finally pried them apart. Daniel and Sierra were escorted out, yelling. Jace wiped blood from his lip, grinning like a wild thing. The manager apologized. The team dispersed awkwardly. Only Jace and I remained outside under the awning, rain beginning to mist. You okay? He asked, panting. I should be asking you. He chuckled, leaning against the wall. I'm fine. Guy punches like a pillow. I stared at him. So, he said after a pause. Want to talk about it? No. Want a drink? I need air. We stood there for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed. And when Jace quietly handed me a napkin to wipe my face, I took it without a word. Not because I needed him, but because I didn't want to stand alone anymore. By the time I got home, my legs felt like they weren't part of me anymore. I wasn't even angry. That was the strange part. No fire. No tears. Just silence. A kind of emotional static buzzing in my chest like background noise I couldn't tune out. I tossed my coat onto the chair and stood in the middle of my apartment, staring at nothing. The light from the hallway flickered. Somewhere, the hum of city traffic rose and fell like waves. Jace had walked me home without saying a word. Just a few steps behind me the entire way, hands in his pockets, a scrape on his cheek where Daniel's ring had caught him. When we reached my building, he looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't. He just gave me a stupid little half-salute like he was pretending none of it had happened and walked off into the dark. Maybe he knew I needed silence more than anything. Maybe he just didn't know what to say. Either way, I was grateful. Later that night, I stood by the window with the lights off, watching the flicker of passing cars below. And suddenly, like a memory that had been hiding in the folds of my coat, it came back. The first time Daniel told me he loved me. We were 22. It was winter break and the city had just had its first snowfall. We were meeting outside the old university gate, and I was late because I couldn't find my scarf. When I finally got there, he was pacing under the street lamp with a cheap bouquet of roses, muttering something under his breath. I'd never seen him nervous before. He always acted like he owned the world. Confident. Polished. Smooth. But that night, he was fumbling. Red-faced. Stuttering. He shoved the flowers at me and blurted, I like you. Oh, love you. Wait. I like you. But I also love you. Crap. Forget it. I'm an idiot. Snow clung to his eyelashes. His ears were beet red. He looked like he might spontaneously combust. I laughed and kissed him on the cheek. And just like that, we were us. That version of Daniel, the earnest, gentle, slightly dumb one, that's who I fell in love with. So when had he turned into the man I saw tonight? The one who spit out my name like it was a curse. Who called me shameful in front of strangers. Who looked at me like I belonged to him. I hadn't realized until now just how far he'd drifted from the person he used to be. Or maybe I was the one who'd changed. At midnight, my phone buzzed. Daniel. I didn't mean what I said. Can we talk? Please. I stared at the screen. Typing, stopped. Typing again. Daniel. Just 5 minutes. I'll wait under the old lamppost near your street. Of course he chose that spot. The same one where he'd waited with the bouquet all those years ago. I grabbed my coat. When I stepped outside, the air was sharp and cold, biting into my lungs. The night had that eerie stillness cities sometimes get after midnight, like the whole world was holding its breath. I walked slowly, heels clicking against the pavement, each step echoing against closed shop fronts and dim buildings. And there he was, standing under the same street lamp, hands in his pockets, coat dusted with snow. Just like that night. Only this time, he didn't have flowers. Only regret. "Thanks for coming," he said quietly. I didn't speak. He studied my face like he didn't recognize it. Or maybe like he didn't know what version of me would show up. "I know what I said at the bar was cruel," he said, voice low. "I was angry. Embarrassed. You looked so unbothered. Like I never meant anything." "You did," I replied simply. That seemed to sting more than yelling would have. "I didn't mean what I said about that guy. Or about you. He ran a hand through his hair. "I lost it." I looked up at the light. Moths circled the bulb lazily. Funny how they always fly into things that hurt them. "I can fire Sierra," he said suddenly. "It's not serious. You know it isn't. We can fix this." I looked at him then. And I remembered every time I cried myself to sleep beside a man who was already emotionally gone. I remembered the month he started working late, stopped texting back, forgot our anniversary. I remembered checking his phone one night and finding her name. I remembered waiting for him to notice I was packing my things. He didn't. Not until a week later. And now he wanted to hit rewind? "I'm sorry," he whispered, taking a step forward. I didn't move. "You're still a part of me," he said. "After 5 years, you don't just stop loving someone." I nodded slowly. "You're right." His eyes lit up. Hope flickered like a match between us. Then I added, "But I did." The words hung between us, gentle, not sharp. Not meant to hurt. Just the truth laid bare. "I don't love you anymore, Daniel." He flinched. "I don't even feel anything when I look at you." I was wrong. "I know," I said. "But it doesn't matter anymore." He was quiet for a long time. Finally he nodded. "Is there someone else?" he asked. I paused. Then, "No." "Will there be?" I looked away. "That's not your question to ask." He swallowed hard. I turned. Walked away. Didn't look back. I could feel his eyes on me the whole way down the street. Could feel the weight of everything unspoken trailing behind me like fog. But the farther I walked, the lighter it got. By the time I reached my apartment door, I didn't feel anything at all. Just peace. After Daniel, there was no heartbreak. No tears on the pillow. No impulsive wine purchases. No rereading old messages at midnight. Just quiet. Clean. Like I'd finally set down a weight I didn't know I was still carrying. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something. An apology, a breakthrough, a change that never came. I went back to work the next day with a blank face and sharper heels. The team didn't ask and I didn't offer. Whatever storm happened at the bar was left unspoken. Except for one person. Morning crybaby boss. I turned to find Jace standing by my desk holding 2 lattes. He pushed one toward me like a peace offering. The lid had a sticky note. "Half sugar, 2 pumps. Like your patience." I took it silently, not looking at him. "Thanks," I muttered. "Anytime," he said, then shuffled back to his desk like a dog wagging its tail after a belly rub. The following week something strange happened. He worked. Actually worked. Not well, not efficiently, but genuinely. He handed in the sales deck before the deadline. Still messy but 80% readable. He asked Lana questions about formatting instead of just dumping the job on her. He stayed late. He even, and I nearly gasped when I saw it, wrote a client follow-up email using proper grammar and punctuation. Was he evolving? "Don't look so shocked," he said when I commented. "I can fake adulthood when needed. Color me impressed." "You know," he said, tugging at his collar, "maybe I'm trying to live up to your high-ass expectations." I raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe you're trying to avoid another office-wide roast." "Both," he said with a wink. 2 days later I came into work with a migraine from hell. I'd barely sat down before Jace walked in, dropped a pack of ibuprofen on my desk, and slid a bottle of cold water across the surface with surgical precision. "Don't ask how I know," he said casually, "but maybe stop grinding your teeth while you sleep. Makes your forehead all wrinkly." I stared at the bottle. You stalking me now? He grinned. Relax. Lana mentioned it. I just listened better. Miracle. You're welcome, Grumpy. That afternoon he finished the client brief ahead of time. The formatting? Flawless. Charts? Perfect. Slide titles? Actual titles. Lana nudged me while I reviewed it. He's kind of trying, huh? Let's not encourage delusion. She leaned in, whispering. He watches you like a hawk. The moment you sigh, coffee's there. You don't think he has a little crush? Please, I muttered. He probably flirts with the fax machine. Still, I couldn't deny it. The change in him was real. Subtle, awkward, full of effort, but real. And I hated how easily I noticed the details. How he stopped gaming during work hours. How he switched his shirts to plainer, more structured ones. How he started bringing backup chargers for everyone's phones, even though he pretended they were just lying around. He even asked for book recommendations once. Something serious, he said. Like the kind of thing you'd read to sound smarter in a meeting. I gave him The Art of War as a joke. He returned it 2 days later with highlights and notes. I had no idea what to do with that information. By the end of the week, I was actively avoiding being alone with him. Not because I disliked him, but because I was starting to like him. Which was dangerous. Because Jace Monroe was everything I didn't trust. 5 years younger. Wild family money. Moody, unpredictable, and full of charm he didn't know how to use responsibly. He was the kind of guy who called everything a vibe and took nothing seriously. Except now he was starting to. And that terrified me. The final blow came on a rainy Thursday. I was walking past the conference room when I heard my name. I paused, leaning near the door. Inside, Jace stood toe-to-toe with Mr. Sienna, calm but furious. You can't just pocket their bonus, Jace was saying. They've pulled off 2 major campaigns in 3 months. Celeste carried the pitch alone. Sienna scoffed. It's not personal. It's numbers. I don't care, Jace said. Cut from me. I'll tell my father. I'll even tell legal. But you're not touching her team's bonus. I stood frozen in the hallway, heart pounding. Mr. Sienna said something low I didn't catch. Jace didn't respond. Just turned and walked out. I ducked into the print room before he saw me. That night I stayed late. So did he. The office was quiet, only the hum of vending machines and the occasional elevator ding. I stepped into the break room and there he was, leaning against the counter, sipping cold green tea from a glass bottle. He looked up, smiled faintly. Didn't know you were still here. Same. He nodded. I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to pretend it didn't mean anything. Instead, I sat across from him at the little table with the chipped corner and said, You didn't have to do that. Did what? He said too casually. I narrowed my eyes. Right? He said, setting the bottle down. That. He tapped his fingers on the table. You're good, he said finally. Better than most of the idiots in that building. You actually care. That matters. I stared at him. Besides, he added with a small grin, if I'm going to become a proper adult, might as well copy the best one in the office. I exhaled, half laugh, half disbelief. And just like that, something shifted. He wasn't just the spoiled intern anymore. He was something else. Someone trying. Maybe for himself. Maybe for me. I wasn't sure yet. But in that moment, under the flickering fluorescent lights of a break room that smelled like instant noodles and ambition, I saw him. Really saw him. And something inside me softened. Just a little. The project wrapped a day early. That never happened. We pulled it off. 3 campaigns delivered, 1 viral ad already climbing. The execs were happy, the client ecstatic, and even Mr. Sienna nodded with a kind of grudging approval usually reserved for company anniversaries and mandatory cake. Lana bounced into my office at 6 p.m. with a flushed face and too much excitement. We're going out tonight, she declared. Everyone's going. Even procurement. I sighed. You know I hate bars. This one has couches and good lighting. Please. You never come. You'll make it weird if you don't. I raised an eyebrow. You rehearsed that guilt trip? Yes, she said proudly. Also, Jace is coming. I rolled my eyes. And? Lana gave me a look. Don't pretend you haven't noticed he hasn't looked at another woman in weeks. That's because he's too busy trying to figure out Excel. Sure. An hour later, I was perched in a corner booth of a dim-lit lounge bar surrounded by too many wings and too much cheap champagne. Jace sat directly across from me. He looked good. Hair pushed back. Black shirt buttoned all the way up for once. Silver ring glinting on his middle finger. He wasn't playing up his usual chaos, just sitting there, arms stretched along the back of the booth, laughing softly at some joke Lana told. "Drink?" he offered, sliding a glass toward me. "I'm sober." "Tragic." "You're drunk." "Also tragic," he said, grinning. The night wore on. People danced. Games started. Lana eventually passed out on a beanbag chair beside the bar with her shoes in her hand and a chicken nugget in her hair. That's when I turned to Jace and saw his head tilt oddly. His eyelids drooped. Then closed completely. I leaned across the table. "Jace." No response. His mouth hung open slightly. I reached across and poked his shoulder. "Jace." He let out the most undignified snore I'd ever heard. Unbelievable. 30 minutes later I was half dragging, half carrying him through the parking garage toward my car. He was heavier than he looked. And long. Too much leg. Why were men shaped like folding chairs? "You're lucky I'm not leaving you in a gutter," I muttered, sweating through my coat. He groaned softly. "I'm not drunk. You are one syllable away from a coma." "No," he whined like a child. "Just resting my eyes. I hope reincarnation turns you into a cat." I finally shoved him into the passenger seat of my car. He slumped sideways, groaning. I searched his pockets. No ID. No cash. No phone. Just gum and a crushed receipt from a bubble tea shop. What kind of grown man didn't carry a wallet? Grumbling, I slammed the door and walked around to the driver's side. When I sat down and turned to check on him, I found him watching me. Eyes open. Quiet. Steady. "You're awake," I said flatly. He didn't answer. Just stared. The air shifted. Something charged. I cleared my throat. "If you're trying to be mysterious, it's not working." He blinked once. "You always look like that when you're irritated?" "Like what?" "Like you're trying not to care." I turned away. "Don't psychoanalyze me while drooling on my seatbelt." "I'm leaving." I paused. "What?" He looked out the window. "My dad approved it. I leave next week. Photography program. Berlin." My fingers curled slightly around the steering wheel. "Didn't realize you were serious." "Yeah, well," he said, voice soft now. "I figured if I didn't go now I'd never get out. You know how that feels." "Too well." "You told anyone else?" "No." "Why me?" "Because," he said, looking back at me, "you're the only one who'd call me an idiot and still help me pack." I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't say anything. Outside, snow began to fall. Light, soft flakes catching in the beam of the parking lot lights. The first snow of the year. I looked out at it, exhaling slowly. The window began to fog. Then, something warm brushed my cheek. And before I could even turn my head, his lips found mine. Barely a kiss. Just the lightest press of skin. A whisper of something unspoken. Then he pulled back, eyes unreadable. I stared. He smiled slightly. Couldn't leave without knowing. I should have been angry. I should have slapped him, yelled, demanded space. But I didn't. Because for one terrifying, stupid second, I wanted to kiss him back. I leaned away instead. "You're leaving." "Yeah." "Good. Don't wait for me." He nodded. Then smiled. A sad knowing thing. "I didn't expect you to." I dropped him off at the base of his building. He waved without looking back. Snowflakes melted into my windshield as I sat in the driver's seat, fingers trembling slightly. My lips still felt warm. Damn him. Damn that kiss. Damn the part of me that wanted to rewind it just once and feel it properly. When Jace left, he didn't say goodbye. Not really. No dramatic airport farewell, no long letter or late-night call. Just a voice note on WeTransfer sent to my work email with no subject line and a half-second pause at the start. "Don't forget to feed your succulents. Even the ugly one. They'll outlive both of us. See you around, boss lady." That was it. No mention of the kiss. No promises. No wait for me. It was good. I didn't want promises. 3 weeks later, I signed my new offer letter from Argent Strategy Group, one of the top consulting firms in the city. I'd been courted before but never had the timing, or the spine, to say yes. This time I took it. The role came with a raise, a corner office, and a relocation package generous enough for me to stop pretending I enjoyed living above a KTV bar. I signed the lease for a top-floor apartment the following week. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Polished wood floors. Sunlight at 7 a.m. every morning. It was perfect. Too perfect. The kind of place that made you feel successful and lonely all at once. The night I moved in, I unpacked alone. No housewarming party. No champagne clinks. Just the rhythmic sound of packing tape being sliced and playlists echoing into the empty space. I filled my bookshelf slowly, trailing fingers across hardcovers like they were familiar friends. At the back of one box, wedged between two client folders and a charger I thought I lost last year, I found it. A crumpled coffee sleeve. On it, in unmistakably terrible penmanship. For boss lady, don't die of overwork. You're too pretty for the afterlife. Jam hot beverage. I sat on the floor for a long minute just staring at it. Then I slid it into the drawer with my spare passport photos and stapler. Out of sight. Out of reach. Out of mind. The rumors came a few days later. A friend sent a screenshot. At Monroe Lens. Berlin debut. Jace Monroe's exhibit sells out in 3 days. Photo. Jace in a black turtleneck, squinting at his own photo in an art gallery. Another shot. Him laughing with a model, arm casually slung around her shoulders. I didn't flinch. I didn't save the photo either. I just closed the app. Later I found myself scrolling his page again. Not to check what he was doing. Just wondering if he remembered me. He never posted the voice note. He never followed up. Maybe that meant it never meant anything to begin with. A week after that, I heard Daniel and Sierra had announced their engagement. There was a story on one of those glossy lifestyle blogs. Power couple reigns supreme. Silicon darling weds his sweetheart. I expected to feel something. Bigger. Bitterness. A dull ache. But all I felt was amusement. Sweetheart. Sierra once threatened to report Lana for stealing desk supplies. She cried when the break room ran out of jasmine tea. I closed the tab without reading more. That chapter was not just closed. It had been shredded, burned, and buried under concrete. Still, the nights were quiet. Not empty, just still. Sometimes I'd get home, open the door to my beautiful, glowing, modern home and hesitate in the doorway. Just for a second. Like expecting someone to be waiting inside. Someone stretched across the sofa, eating instant noodles with chopsticks, yelling at me to take off my shoes properly and drink water. But there was no one. Just my keys hitting the bowl and the soft click of the door shutting behind me. I reorganized the spice rack one night because I didn't know what else to do. Then the bookshelf. Then the cabinet under the sink. At the back of the drawer next to the coffee sleeve I swore I forgot, I found a tiny camera roll. Undeveloped film. A sticky note wrapped around it, faded from time. For later. You'll know when. His handwriting again. What was I supposed to do with that? I didn't throw it away. But I didn't look at it again either. One particularly sleepless night I clicked into his fan page. There were hundreds of comments now. Iconic. Monroe's Berlin show. Life-changing. I want to be photographed by him just once. His eyes are unreal. I scrolled past photo after photo. Most were in black and white. One stopped me. It was of a woman standing in a crosswalk under a red umbrella. Her face wasn't visible, but the energy was unmistakable. So, controlled. Resilient. Caption. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is nothing at all. I stared at it for a long time. Then I went into settings and deleted the fan page bookmark. Not because I didn't care, but because I was tired of pretending I didn't. Early the next morning, I stepped out onto the balcony with tea in hand, wrapped in an old cardigan and silence. The city skyline was still sleepy. Only a few windows lit, the roads still drowsy. The air was cold and crisp. Clear. I stood there letting it wrap around me. Not in love. Not broken. Just in between. And strangely, for the first time in years, that was enough. I think you'll like him, Lana said, handing me a dress hanger with more excitement than the law should allow. He's smart, stable, reads poetry on purpose, and he doesn't wear shirts with flames or anime characters. Thanks for setting the bar on fire and then walking over it. She smirked. Just go. It's dinner, not a contract. Fine, I sighed. But if he talks about astrology or crypto, I'm leaving. Deal. But he's a literature professor, not a tech bro. You'll survive. His name was Miles Chin. Early 30s. Trinket. Wore a navy cardigan and said, "It's a pleasure," instead of "yo." The restaurant was elegant, soft jazz curling through the air like it belonged to the walls. No chaos. No strobe lights. No buffalo wings. Perfect. He opened the door for me. Pulled out my chair. Asked about my favorite author without sounding like he was testing me. We ordered wine. Shared duck confit. Talked about work, city's favorite bookstores. He was calm. Intentionally present. I kept waiting for a punchline that never came. Halfway through dessert, as Miles told me about the time he got lost in a Paris metro station and accidentally ended up in Belgium, I laughed. Genuinely. And then the bell above the restaurant door jingled. I felt it before I saw it. That chaotic, magnetic shift in air. That careless, electric presence. And there he was. Jace Monroe. Back from Berlin. Leather jacket. Snow-damp hair. Camera slung across his shoulder like he'd just walked off the cover of Accidental Menace Monthly. He spotted me instantly. Smiled like he'd been expecting this exact scene. "Fancy seeing you here," he said, sauntering toward our table. Miles looked up, puzzled. "Friend of yours?" "Unfortunately," I muttered. Jace pulled out the third chair at our table and sat. Just like that. No invitation. No hesitation. "Miles, right?" he asked, reaching across to shake his hand. "I'm Jace. Photographer. World traveler. Coffee enabler." Miles blinked. Nice to meet you." I stared at him. "What are you doing?" "Came back this morning. Saw your Instagram story. Recognized the wallpaper." "You recognized restaurant wallpaper?" "I'm very observant." I glared. "Leave." He ignored me and turned to Miles. "So, how's she doing? Still allergic to cilantro? Still pretends not to cry during animated movies?" Miles gave an awkward laugh. I wouldn't know." "She's great," Jace continued. "Bossy as hell. But great." I stood. Jace. Outside. Now. We stepped onto the sidewalk, cold air smacking me in the face like a warning. The snow from last week had melted, leaving damp sidewalks and city grit. Perfect backdrop for my spiraling mood. "You're unbelievable. I missed you." I blinked. "What?" "I missed you," he repeated casually. "That's not allowed. You show up after 2 months. Crash my date. And say that." He shrugged. "You looked bored. You don't get to decide that." He stepped closer. "Then why did you come out here with me?" I opened my mouth. Closed it. He smiled softer now. "I know you, Celeste. You wouldn't have left if he was winning. Don't flatter yourself." He looked at me, quiet again. "Did you think I'd forget?" he asked, voice low. "That kiss? That night? That night ended with you flying to Berlin and ghosting me. I needed to go. You needed to say something. I thought the note was enough." I shook my head. "You're impossible." He grinned. "Still cute when you're mad." "I swear to God." "You want me to leave?" he asked, finally serious. I hesitated. That was all he needed. He stepped forward again. Closer now. His voice dropped. "I'll leave if you say it doesn't matter. That you didn't think about me. That you didn't miss me at least once." My throat tightened. The silence stretched. He tilted his head, waiting. I whispered, "Grow up, Jace." And walked away. Miles was kind enough to pretend nothing had happened. We finished our tea. Said goodbye. He offered to call again. I smiled and said he could try. But we both knew he wouldn't. That night I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, staring at Jace's contact. There was no message. No call. No apology. Just the echo of his voice in my head. "I missed you." I turned off the light and lay down, willing sleep to come. But my heart was louder than my thoughts. And no matter how I turned, it kept whispering the same dangerous thing. What if he meant it? 2 mornings after the date ambush, I stepped out of the elevator and nearly walked face-first into a paper cup. "Your usual," Jace said casually, holding it out with 2 hands like he was delivering medicine. I blinked. "What? How?" "You said this firm had better lighting." I figured that meant Argent. "You figured." He grinned. "I was just passing by. Thought I'd drop in. New office suits you." I didn't take the coffee. "You stalked my job location?" He made a show of being offended. Stalked? Please. I'm an independent adult man with strong internet skills and limited boundaries. Leave. He didn't. Instead, he handed the coffee to Lana, who had just appeared behind me, and said, "For Celeste. Half sugar, 2 pumps, no foam." Extra judgment. Lana looked between us wide-eyed, then raised her eyebrows at me with a smirk. "So, are you two like?" "He's leaving," I said, brushing past. He followed me to the door. "I have a meeting." "Perfect. I brought my good luck socks. Go home." "You want me to wait in the car?" "Jace." "Lobby." I closed the glass door between us. He mouthed, "Lunch?" I flipped the lock. He winked. That would have been that. One awkward interruption, a few days of silence. But then he started showing up. At the coffee shop downstairs from my office. Total coincidence. On the sidewalk outside my condo. Had a chute nearby. He helped me carry groceries from my trunk once. Another time I caught him fixing the mailroom printer while the staff just watched. "Does he work here?" someone whispered one day in the break room. "No," Lana whispered back. "He's just around." At a major pitch presentation, one of my teammates backed out sick. I was prepping solo, tense and cornered, when the receptionist buzzed me. Someone named Jace is here. Says he's your assistant." I marched down ready to kill. Instead, I found him standing in the lobby in a white shirt and navy slacks, holding a backup deck and a box of pastries. "I made slides," he said calmly. "Don't worry, they're mostly spelled correctly." I stared. "Why are you here?" I remembered the pitch date. "Figured you'd try to go full gladiator. Thought I'd show up and be your shield." I exhaled. Loudly. "You're not even qualified." "Who said anything about qualified?" He held up the pastries. "Bribery is still legal, right?" He didn't officially ask to be with me. No speech. No roses. No Dieter. He just started being there. He knew when I was too tired to cook and sent delivery without asking. He knew my dumb printer wouldn't connect and showed up with a spare cable. He messaged me when it rained. "Don't forget your umbrella." When I had a bad day, a box of chocolate-covered almonds appeared at my door with a sticky note that just said, "Today sucked." I fixed it. It was infuriating. And effective. The night it all cracked open, a citywide blackout hit just as I was halfway through warming leftover noodles. My condo went dark in one flicker. I stood there, blinking, phone flashlight in one hand, wondering if I should light a candle or just eat emotionally in the dark. Then came the knock. I opened the door. Jace stood there in a hoodie and sweats, holding 2 paper bags and a backpack of candles. "I figured you'd be too proud to leave and too annoyed to admit you needed help." I blinked. "You knew there'd be a blackout?" "No," he said, stepping in, "but I knew you wouldn't be ready for one." He set up candles across the counter, unpacked Thai takeout, and sat down like he'd lived there for years. We ate by soft light. No jokes. No flirting. Just quiet. I didn't know when his presence became a comfort. Maybe it was the morning he brought congee because I'd slept through breakfast. Maybe it was the way he stopped knocking before entering, always holding something in his hands. Coffee, charger, book. Maybe it was how I started listening for his laugh when I got home. Or how silence felt heavier when he wasn't around. I never called it love. I didn't even call it us. It was too dangerous, too near the cliff edge I'd sworn never to return to. But every time he sat on my couch, legs stretched, camera gear on the floor, socks mismatched and eyes fixed on me like I was a sunrise he couldn't look away from. God, it was hard to breathe. The confrontation came on a Tuesday. A nothing special, nothing wrong kind of day. I was sorting through print proofs, half-focused, when Jace walked in. No warning. No coffee. Just him standing in the doorway watching me like he'd made up his mind. He said. I looked up. "Okay, what?" "We need to talk." I set the folder down. That's never a good sentence. "I've been around," he said slowly. "Weeks now. And you let me. You don't push me away, not really. But you don't pull me in either." I swallowed. He stepped forward. "What are we doing, Celeste?" I didn't answer. He exhaled. "Do you want me to stop coming? To stop texting? Stop showing up when I know you've had a long day?" My voice was quiet. "It's not about that." "Then what is it?" I looked at him, really looked. His brows drawn, his jaw tight like he was holding something in. And I hated what I had to say. Jace, I like having you around. I do. But this. I gestured to the space between us. This isn't sustainable. I don't want another half-drawn relationship. I don't want to fall into something messy again. We're not even a match. He cut in sharp. You don't think I know that? His voice dropped raw and fast. I'm not trying to play games, Celeste. I'm not offering some shiny, flawless promise. I'm telling you the truth. He stepped closer. I want you. I froze. He didn't flinch. Not the version you let people see. Not the one who pretends she's fine with an empty apartment and silent mornings. I want the you that throws flour, that hates cilantro, that sings off-key when you cook. I forced a smile. That's romantic. But I've seen what happens when it fades. It's not going to. You can't know that. He paused. I can't stay away from you. I've tried. You haunt me, Celeste. He looked at me like I was air. I'm not perfect. But I would never hurt you. Not intentionally. Not even close. My breath caught. I've been hurt before, I said softly. I can't afford another fall. He reached for my arm, not forcefully, just enough to ground me. You're not falling, he said. You've already landed. You're just afraid to look down and realize you survived it. Tears threatened the corner of my eyes. I turned to leave. No, I whispered. We can't do this. He reached again, this time catching my hand. Celeste. I stilled. Look at me. I didn't. Tell me you don't feel anything. Tell me you don't love me. Tell me and I'll leave. I swear I'll walk out that door and never bother you again. I couldn't breathe. His grip wasn't tight, just trembling, waiting. I closed my eyes. I waited for my voice to obey. For my pride to take over. But all that came out was a whisper. I missed you. Silence stretched like wire between us. Then he moved. Fast. His hands found my face and his mouth crashed into mine like he'd been waiting months, years, lifetimes to do it. It wasn't careful. It wasn't soft. It was heat and heartache and hunger, all rolled into one explosion. I stumbled backward into the wall and he followed. Lips never parting, hands in my hair, fingers curling like he didn't believe I was real. And I responded. Because I'd missed him too. Because I was done pretending. Because maybe this wasn't safe. But it was true. Later, when we finally pulled apart, breathless, foreheads pressed together, he whispered, So, still think we're not meant to be? I laughed, chest heaving. I think, I murmured, we're a terrible idea. Is that a yes? I didn't answer. I kissed him again. Harder this time. Because yes, it was always yes. There was a time when silence made me nervous. When the absence of noise meant something was missing. A person, a feeling, a heartbeat that should have been closer. But now I woke to the sound of sizzling garlic, feet padding across hardwood, and a horribly off-key rendition of an 80s love song being sung like a dramatic solo in an empty stadium. And Thray will always live why. Jace, I croaked from the hallway, it's 8 a.m. Whitney deserves better. He peeked around the corner, shirtless in plaid pajama pants, holding a whisk like a microphone. You're awake. Excellent. Prepare your ears for the encore. No, please. Too late. He struck a pose and belted out the chorus at full volume, sending our cat skittering beneath the couch and knocking a wooden spoon off the counter. I covered my face with my hands. This man, this absolute menace of a man, was mine. We made pancakes. Correction, I made pancakes while he made messes. There was flour in my hair, batter on the wall, and the suspicious scent of something slightly burning. You're banned from the stove. Unconstitutional. You set the spatula on fire last time. An accident born of passion. You were trying to flip bacon with your hand. Because I'm a visionary. I turned toward him, arms crossed, spatula in hand. And that's when he did it. Without warning, without setup, without anything but that stupidly soft look in his eyes, he leaned in and kissed me. Right there in the middle of the kitchen, with flour dusting the counters and pancakes still sizzling, he kissed me like he'd been waiting since the beginning of the world just to do that. I squeaked, literally squeaked, because I was still holding the spatula in one hand and a fork in the other. He grinned against my mouth. Romantic, right? I pulled back, laughing. You kissed me while I was holding utensils like a war general. You looked powerful. And ridiculous. You always do, he said, kissing the tip of my nose. It's my favorite thing. We spent the morning doing nothing important. Eating on the floor because we didn't feel like cleaning the table. Listening to old songs we both pretended to hate but sang anyway. Fighting over whether syrup belonged on eggs. It doesn't. Jace disagrees. He's wrong. And when the sun drifted past noon, we ended up on the couch, half dressed, half asleep, completely full. I was reading a book. Jace had his head on my lap, eyes closed, hand curled loosely around my ankle. He wasn't asleep, but he wasn't all the way here either. You know what I like most about this place? He asked, voice low and sleepy. What? You. I smiled, tracing his jaw with my thumb. That's not cheesy at all. I'm evolving. He cracked one eye open. You happy? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked around at the books stacked on the table, the socks he never folded, the half-drunk tea cooling on the windowsill. At the man with the crooked grin and the wild soul who somehow made my world feel still. Yeah, I said quietly. I think I am. That night we didn't go out. Didn't watch a movie. Didn't scroll or work or even speak much. We just lay there, limbs tangled, heads resting against each other, the world quiet around us. I felt his breath slow. Felt the weight of peace settle in my chest like a warm stone. Maybe it wasn't the kind of love story people expected. No declarations in rain. No grand forgiveness arcs. No violins swelling at sunset. Just this. Just us. Choosing each other. And again. The end.